Hi everyone, John Cottrell here of MBODY Yoga. Welcome. This is Soft Flow Yoga. It's a 60-minute gentle yoga practice. So our class today is going to focus on hip flexors and hamstrings. I thought I'd work on the front part of the legs and the back part of the legs because they tend to get tight. I know mine do. And they can also conflict with, other bodily functions, just standing and sitting. And it certainly can affect our gait, our posture, movement, all of that. So I thought it'd be a good idea to pay close attention to just lengthening and stretching out hip flexors, the fronts of the legs, and of course our hamstrings. So for our props, same as usual, we like to have something soft to sit on, like a nice soft blanket or a folded towel. A couple of yoga blocks could come in handy for this. I've got my two blocks here. You can always use some hardbound books. I'd also add a yoga strap if you happen to have one, or something that resembles a yoga strap. It could be a belt, a jump rope, something like that. We got our strap ready to go, and of course, optional, just a nice cushion. Here, a big pillow or a yoga bolster is what I have here. All right, that's it. Let's go ahead and begin our practice. So make sure you're sitting comfortably on your pillow or folded blanket. You can cross your legs here or extend the legs, just whatever makes you feel much more comfortable as you begin the practice. We do like to begin with breath, just our breathing meditation, just to get fully situated and to fully connect. So feel free to keep your eyes opened for this process. You can certainly close your eyes as you take your journey inward. With eyes opened or closed, take a few moments to get reacquainted with your breath. That might be just a few deep breaths. Just inhale through your nose. You can exhale through your nose or out through your mouth, just a couple of times like that. And then you can just settle into slow, steady breaths. Finding yourself coming to stillness as you experience the movement of your breath. Allow it to circulate through your entire body. Notice how your body is responding to your breath. As you inhale, you might just feel the lungs expand, filling up with this wonderful fresh air. And when you exhale, you may draw your navel inward towards your spine. In yoga, that's the abdominal lock, that light contraction of the abdominal muscles. Paying attention to your breathing again. And inhale, just feel the lengthening of your spine. If you're sitting, just feel yourself sit up a little taller, filling up your lungs. And then exhale. Draw navel inward towards your spine, Uddiyana Bandha, the abdominal lock. Doesn't have to be too strong, just an awareness of drawing inward. Notice these sensations. And also pay attention to the sound of your breath. That might mean just turning up the volume of your breath so you can hear it. Our breathing meditation. Settling in, preparing for our moving practice. Now, as we prepare our bodies to move, take 3 more breaths. And then a very simple movement. And inhale to extend your arms out and then all the way up. Just a nice stretch as you reach for the ceiling. And exhale, extend your arms out and right back down by your side. Just bringing some energy and flow and movement to the body. Again, inhale, reaching across the room and all the way up towards the ceiling. Even imagine you're going to reach to touch the ceiling. And your exhale, once again extending your arms out. Then all the way back down. Now go ahead and continue to move and breathe at your own pace. Paying attention to the sound of your breath, the feeling of your breath. Aware of sensations in the body as you now put the body into motion. Lengthening through the sides of your body as you reach into the air. Aware of your shoulders, outstretched arms, a good energy and effort as if you're going to touch the walls on either side of you. And of course the breathing, when we raise our arms, inhaling, filling up your lungs. Exhale as the arms come down, still continue to draw your belly in, connecting to your center. Finish the breath that you're on and take 2 more breaths. Take your time. And when you're complete, you can just come back to stillness. Arms and hands can just relax down by your side, hands in your lap. Just return to those full deep breaths while you sit in stillness. Here, you're just going to reach behind you. Bring your hands behind you like so, maybe just propped up onto your fingertips, with the shoulders gently rolling back to help open up your heart space. We're just creating our seated, mild back bend. You might even tip your chin up just a little bit, just to create a little bit more opening through your heart space. Now, with an inhale, press into the ground with the fingertips for the energy right up the arms and shoulders. Breath rising, filling up your lungs. Very expansive there. Then, as you exhale, draw navel inward towards your spine. Again, doesn't have to be too strong, just awareness of your center. Inhale, once again, bringing energy to the hands, arms, and shoulders. Breath expanding through the lungs, opening up through your heart space. Exhale, connect to the abdominal lock, and also engaging the upper back by squeezing the shoulder blades together. Lots of energy produced in this seated position. 2 more breaths. And then when you're complete, just lower your chin so your neck and head are neutral. You can walk your hands towards yourself. Sitting up tall, arms again can just rest in your lap. Again, come into stillness, hold and breathe. Let's get ready for our forward fold, where we change our leg posture here, creating our bound angle pose or cobbler's pose, where the soles of the feet touch, knees bent, opening up through the inner legs and hips. Knees and legs, they don't have to touch the ground here, but so they don't feel like they're just hanging out in space. Feel free to use your books or blocks and just tuck them underneath, even some soft pillows there too. And just let the legs rest there. Then hold on to your ankles or shins in a way to really sit up nice and tall as best as you can. Now we inhale, feel the breath rising upward and continue to feel the spinal extension. Exhale, draw belly in, engaging and supporting the body now as we hinge forward just a little bit. Feel as if you're leading with your heart and your chin as you hinge forward. Stay here. Now another in-breath, lengthening through the spine, sitting up a bit taller as you're able. Exhale, draw belly in, and we hinge forward a tiny bit more. Now just go to the point where you start to feel sensation in the inner legs and hips. You don't have to go too far for this. That way you may be able to kind of hold the position a little bit longer without stressing out the body. And if we're able to do that, then the body can really respond appropriately for this nice stretch. Now you're certainly welcome to lower the chin a little bit, even round your back, which creates a little bit more space so that you can fold or hinge over a little bit more. Again, not forcing this position. Still want to be able to hold the posture and feel quite good in it, but still noticing there's something happening in the body. In this case, still the inner legs, your hips, and if your back happens to be rounded, just feel the curvature in the spine. And there might be a little stretch quality in the back as well. Let's take 3 more breaths. When you're complete, just lift the chin a little bit to help re-extend your neck and spine. Maybe hands on the floor here to help press and assist your own body to sit nice and tall once again as we complete that pose. Couple breaths. Then we'll move our props out of the way. Let's move to our hands and knees. Just take your time as you make your way to your hands and knees. Here's where you might want to use your blanket or towel. I like to unfold my blanket out to a rectangle so I can kneel on it and have my hands here. A little extra cushion. So here's our tabletop. We move into cow pose, which is an inhale, creating a back bend, opening the heart, tipping the chin up. There's our back bend. And with the exhale, we create cat pose, rounding the spine, still engaging the abdominal lock with the belly button pulling up towards spine. Continue. Feel the pelvis tip back as the belly drops. Heart opens as you create the back bend. Cow, exhale, tuck tailbone under. Belly button pulling up towards spine, chin to chest, the curvature in the spine, cat. Now just move at your own pace here, flowing through these two positions, commonly called cat-cow. Wonderful undulation of the spine helps to keep that mobility throughout your back, keep things flexible, even through the pelvis, since there's that rocking sensation in the pelvic region. Finish the breath that you're on and take two more. Just pause in stillness for a moment in a tabletop position, and we'll get set up for our downward facing dog. If you are using a blanket or towel for some padding, let's go ahead and move that to the side. Come back onto the mat. Here's our tabletop. Spread out your fingers here as we now step the hands forward, just getting the hands and wrists out from underneath the shoulders. It just helps to create the alignment we want in our downward facing dog eventually. Spreading out the fingers creates a nice stretch between each finger. And lean into the hands, press. Now, that is kind of a force flex a bit in the wrist, but it does flatten out the palms. Feel the strong, straight arms. Getting ready for our down dog. Go ahead and tuck your toes, but first one more cat and cow. So first the cow, that's the back bend. Looking forward, arching the back, exhale, round it out into cat pose. Hold cat. Be sure toes are tucked so you can lift your knees and send your hips up into the air. This should automatically lengthen the spine. Keep a good bend in the knees so the hips can continue to rise, providing a little bit more length through the torso. Remember, your hands are pressing firmly into the mat, perhaps a bit more pressure towards your thumbs and index fingers. So there's always that sensation of moving in towards center. Even imagine you've got a block or something between the arms that you're holding on to. Now look directly down, even actually check in with your head and neck, making sure it's loose. But look straight down so you can start stepping forward a bit until your feet are at the center of your mat, perhaps, just as long as your feet feel flat on the ground. Bring your hands toward your toes, you'll be in a forward fold. Let's rise up halfway. So inhale, slide your hands up the legs a bit to help extend the spine so you're parallel to the floor, creating a tabletop position. Stay here for a few breaths. Maintain a bend in the knees. Okay, this will start to get into the hamstrings, and the hamstrings are engaged in this position. So it's one body part or parts that are helping you to hold this particular posture. Core is automatically engaging here too, so you don't just fall over. Alrighty. Now remember, we are going to be stretching out the hamstrings more and working on the fronts of the legs, the hip flexors. Let's shift the weight back into the heels just a bit. Bend your knees. Feel like you're going to sit down lower into a chair. Tip your heart up. Take your arms out to the side. Then an inhale as you stand up tall, straightening the legs, and reach up into the air. Very tall, extended mountain pose. Exhale, bring your arms down to your side. And we'll just pause here for a moment. Our first standing position. Good. Just hold here for a moment. Just kind of check in with posture. Just standing up nice and tall. Do your shoulders roll naturally back? Do you have any tension or tightness in the waistline, low belly, or thighs? Because or even in your hamstrings or glutes, because they can be, even though they might be minor, indicators of, tight hamstrings or tight hip flexors. Do you get tired or do things feel strained if you're just standing tall like this? We'll do another test in a moment when we're lying down flat. Okay, let's do our half salute to the sun. Just folding forward and coming right back up. Here we go. Inhale. Let's reach into the air. Another nice stretch for the entire body. Exhale. Spread your wings. Bend your knees and feel like you're sitting back and down into a chair that's behind you. Slowly come down. You don't have to go all the way down. Maybe your arms just drop naturally. Your hands can land at your shins or near your ankles. You don't have to touch your toes. Inhale. Slide your hands up the legs to help re-extend your spine, creating that tabletop. We'll hold once again. More bend in the knees is perfect. No worries about keeping the legs straight here. But as best as you can, elongate through the torso. Feel like your hips and tailbone are reaching to the back of the room. Your neck is neutral, your gaze is downward, but your crown, the very top of your head, is pointing forward. Let's stand. Shift weight into the heels, bend your knees, tip upper body up a bit. Extend your arms out to the side, standing up tall. Once again, reach for the ceiling. Nice stretch. Exhale, arms return to your side. Very nice. Mountain pose. All right, let's move into our variation of Warrior One. Starting in mountain pose. Nice and tall, neck neutral, shoulders rolled back, but you're going to relax the arms. Often, and also soften the knees just a little bit. Just check in to see if the knees feel locked. And then start to shift your weight into your right foot. Press the foot strongly into the floor. Just like in down dog, we push the hands into the floor. Do that with their foot. Stand tall. Inhale, feel the lengthening of the spine. Get tall. Exhale, draw belly in. A little bit of a lean forward, not much, so we can actually start to pick up the left foot and just tap the left foot back until it just kind of naturally stops. Let's hold here for a moment before we get into the pose. It's minor, but it is a lengthening through the hip flexor. Okay, just with the leg step back a bit. Let's do something else. If you feel okay and balanced, you can even put a little bit more bend in this right knee. Stay here, but extend the arms up into the air. Even tip the chest up a little bit. Now you're creating a bit of a back bend. We are lengthening through the whole front body, mostly this left side. This can be a nice neutral or gentle hip flexor stretch. Let's bring the arms back down. All right, we're still got a lot of weight in this front foot, so we're going to pivot that back heel, sit back here. There's our center. All righty. Now our Warrior One variation. You might place your hands on your hips. Make sure you're pushing the pelvis down and feel as tall as can be. Turning so you're facing mostly forward. Then an inhale to sweep your arms straight up into the air, more length. Exhale, bend your elbows to 90 degrees. Again, a very neutral feeling lunge. Balanced on 2 feet, but there is certainly a separation between the feet, but it's not very deep, not very long. Inhale, shoot the arms straight up once again near the ears. Exhale, bring the arms down. Go ahead and place your hands on your hips. Let's shift the weight back into the front foot. Okay, this front foot. Pick up the back foot. Step forward. Feet are together here. Inhale, extend the arms into the air once again. Exhale, arms return to your side. All right, so this is the same thing that we always do, but we're just adding that one pause to get the hip flexor stretch. Soft knees, shift weight into left foot, root into the floor, feel the energy in that left leg. Feel nice and tall as you inhale, fill up your lungs. Exhale, draw belly in to engage and support. Lean forward a tiny bit. You'll even feel your left set of toes grip the mat. Let's pick up the right foot and just tap it back until it just naturally stops. Hold here, heel lifted. Again, there's still weight in this front foot, but there is this leg behind us. Let's go ahead and take the arms up into the air. Keep them straight. Tip the chest up a little bit, even your gaze upward. Again, we're creating this back bend, but we're trying to get as much length as possible throughout the body so there isn't a pinching sensation in the low back. And as before, we're getting a lengthening quality through the front part of the body, especially on the right side. Let's bring the arms back down. Pivot that right heel to the floor, shift the weight back, plant into your center. Hands on hips, push down. Inhale to feel the torso lift, extended spine, making space in the belt line so it's generally easy to face forward. We'll inhale, bring both arms up into the air. Exhale, bend elbows to 90 degrees. We'll hold here for a couple breaths. Hopefully you feel pretty sturdy, strong, supported, and balanced. Here we go. Inhale, let's take the arms straight up once again. Exhale, arms come down, bring hands to hips. Let's lean forward, more weight into this left foot. Pick up the back foot, step forward, feet are together now. Inhale, sweep the arms into the sky. Exhale, arms return to your side. Well done. You can even shake out the shoulders here if you'd like. All righty, let's make our way down to the ground. Okay, of course, we're going to flow and go through our sun salutation. Whenever you're ready, inhale, let's float the arms straight up into the air. Exhale, spread your wings, bend your knees, sit back into the imaginary chair. Take your time if you can, slowly folding, maybe touching your toes, but never needing to touch your toes. A nice bend in your knees. Inhale, slide the hands up the legs to re-extend the spine so it's long and flat. Exhale, fold, let the back round, bend your knees a whole lot more so you can bring your hands to the floor and start walking, stepping both feet back to the back end of your mat. Draw a straight line as best as you can in plank, right there. Good strength building pose. Breathe in. Exhale, bend your knees a little, send your hips into the air. You'll be in downward facing dog. You probably didn't see, but I just took a little tiptoe forward with the feet just to adjust so I feel pretty secure in this inverted posture. You can certainly do the same. Adjust the feet, adjust your hands. Now inhale, extend your right leg up behind you, straight as can be if you can. Doesn't have to lift high. Exhale, bend this right knee. Bring it in underneath you towards your chest or chin as you shift your whole upper body forward until your shoulders look and feel like they're over the wrists. And then just set the right foot down, just your toes, heel lifted. And set the left knee down onto the floor. This should take some pressure off the hands so we can actually take the right hand, go pick up the right foot, and place it up higher on the mat. That's just in case you're unable to step the foot all the way to the top of the mat the first time. Let's re-lift that left knee, pivot or turn left heel to the floor. We need to find that center like we did in the first version of this. So we shift the weight back, get more pressure on that back foot. I'm rising to my fingertips to help extend spine, looking forward or kind of jetting forward here. Now an inhale, hinging from hips, rising up, reaching into the air. Here's our second variation of Warrior One. Hold for a moment. Now here, just because of the more distance between the legs and a little more stretch quality because of the outer rotation of this back leg and the arms in the air, there's our hip flexor stretch. We mimicked that earlier, but you may feel it more now. Okay, so these are wonderful poses to do to help bring more length to the front portion of the leg. Breathe in. Exhale, now turn your torso towards the left side of the room as your arms come down to parallel. Here's Warrior Two. Just check in, make sure your right knee and toes are pointing forward for a nice opening in the right inner leg. Reaching out over the right leg to angle the upper half of the body. Rotating the arms, here's our side angle pose. I like to stay up high, certainly appropriate for this class. You can go down a little lower if you'd like, but certainly not necessary. Just a couple more breaths. We're going to get ready for another hip flexor stretch focusing on this left leg. Follow me. We're going to inhale. Exhale, carefully turn, fold, bend, come down to the floor with the hands, land here. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. You'll be in a runner's lunge. Now we're going to gently set the left knee down onto the floor. Now if your blanket is nearby, you can bring it in and kneel on it. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to unfold my blanket here and just reposition my left knee so it's on the pad. You can do that if you'd like. And once you're all steady here, just rise up, upper body, so we're like this. Now what you may have are some right angles. The left leg, okay, like that, there's our right angle there, and then even the right leg, there's a right angle. But we need to change the front leg because we're going to lunge to work on this left hip flexor, but we don't want to put pressure on this right knee. So I'm going to move my right foot way out front. It might even creep a little bit off the mat. That's fine. so that we've changed this angle. I'm going to place the hands on the thigh right here. Gentle pressure right in the middle of the thigh there to help sit up as tall as I can. Inhale right there. Exhale, just start to lunge forward just a little bit. You'll see this whole leg starts to shift forward. It'll start to realign over the heel or ankle. That way we don't put any pressure on the knee, but you may start to feel this stretch in the left hip flexor. Now, the taller you are and the more lunge you take, the more of a back bend you create. If you don't want that sensation, then lean forward. Feel free to place your forearms instead of your hands on the thigh. Now, I'm not very deep in the pose, and you certainly don't have to be too deep in the pose. Again, as long as there's this natural lengthening quality here. It doesn't have to be too significant or massive of a stretch. It really doesn't. You certainly could go a little deeper, and I know I could. But again, really not necessary for the true benefit of the pose and the long-term sensation we were creating that we want in that left leg. So you don't have to go too far, you don't have to lunge too deeply. And again, you may want to feel as if you could hold this for a significant amount of time. If you feel a little tired here, you can always lean forward a little bit more. Maybe bring the hands to the floor. I just brought in my cushion, okay, just to bring the hands down so they're a little bit softer. Okay? So just holding, breathing. When you're holding poses, especially for a long time, something like this, using props to help support your body, you can just focus on your breathing while the rest of the body is just doing what it's naturally going to do. In this pose, we're just getting that nice stretch and release. 3 more breaths here. After the 3rd breath, if your hands are on the floor or some props here, I'm just going to bring them back up onto the thigh. Press to help lift myself up and get out of that lunge. I am going to move my props out of the way. Okay. I am leaning back, so go ahead and follow me. I'm leaning back so I can kind of slide or step this right foot back, return to that right angle. Lean to your left, so you can bring your left hand to the floor. Okay, so you can actually step this right foot back and you'll be on hands and knees just for a moment and return to cat and cow just to bring alignment and mobility back into the body. Maybe just 2 or 3 breaths, fine right here. We're going to do the other side. And I think I'm just going to move my blanket so it's out of the way. Just for the moment, I will bring it back in once we get to that second side. All right. Same setup. Let's step the hands forward, spread out your fingers for the interfinger stretch. Press palms into the floor, flatten palms, strong straight arms, they're hugging to center. Tuck your toes. Cat, cow. Inhale to cow for the back bend. Exhale, cat. Stay here, tuck toes, lift knees, send hips into the air. Adjust your feet. You might tiptoe forward as I typically do. Keep a good bend in the knees, hips lift. Feel how long and straight the spine is. Create some opening in the shoulders and chest. Arms are still hugging to midline. Now we inhale to extend left leg into the air, straight as can be. Again, doesn't have to lift high. As you exhale, bend the left knee. Bring it in underneath you towards your chest, shifting forward, shoulders over the wrists. Set the left foot down. Imagine you are trying to step through, but the foot might touch ground. That's fine. Set the right knee down. Let's go get the left foot and just pick it up. If you get close to the hand, you can just kind of scoot it forward. Relift the right knee. Pivot right heel to the floor. Put weight into that foot. Rise up to fingertips, helping to lengthen through your torso out over the left thigh. Then we can rise. Inhale, hinge from hips, rising up, reaching into the air. Here's our Warrior One. Second version. Again, let's hold so we can start to experience the right leg doing its work. Right hip flexor, top portion or high portion of the thigh region, right below the belt line. This is also kind of getting into the ab section. The hip flexor is it's kind of long, okay? Kind of starts in the psoas, kind of way up in the low belly region and goes down into the upper leg. Let's breathe in. Exhale, opening up towards the The right side of the room as your arms come down to parallel. There's our Warrior Two position. Start to lean forward or reach out, angled upper body, rotating the arms. Stay high up as I am at the moment. Reach high and low. I'm even going to place my hand on my thigh. I just feel a little bit more supported like that, especially on this side. A couple more breaths as we feel this great opening. We're going to get ready to do that lunge to work on our right hip flexor. Here we go. Breathe in. Exhales carefully turn towards the floor. Fold and bend. Hands to the ground. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. You'll be in a runner's lunge. If in the runner's lunge you can grab that blanket and slide it underneath, go ahead and do that. Then set the right knee onto the blanket. Once we're there, situated, we're going to rise up nice and tall. Kind of check in with the angles of the leg. We still want to wiggle the left foot forward, so we're changing that angled leg. So when we lunge, we don't put pressure in this front knee. Hands on the thigh, we're pressing into the thigh, not too hard, just enough to help you get nice and tall up top. That's an inhale, we're facing forward. Exhale, we can draw belly in and start to gradually lunge. Maybe a little bit at a time, just start to notice, like, oh, okay, I start to feel that, there it is. You can go a little bit more. I'm actually going to wiggle my left foot forward just a tiny bit more. Lunge a little bit deeper. This is about as far as I'm going to take it. Getting out of that back bend feel by leaning forward, even resting my forearms on the thigh. It just takes the back out of the equation. It feels a little bit relaxed. That's fine, because you're in this lunge and it is affecting that hip flexor. I'm going to bring in the pillow again so I can bring my hands down so I can just lean forward a little bit more. There is kind of this sinking sensation in the hips, so you're just kind of settling into that natural stretch. Just be sure you don't feel like you're overdoing it. Holding here. Receiving the most that we can out of this nice lunge position. All the wonderful benefits. Lengthening, that stretch, even building a little bit of strength here too. And just know with, more mobility and length in the hip flexor muscle groupings all in there, just think about the functions of the body, sitting, standing, walking, running, all the things you enjoy doing. I want to be able to keep doing those things easily. 3 more breaths. I just felt myself just sink a little deeper because I can feel it, my leg just kind of releasing and opening up to this position because I feel pretty relaxed here. This feels good. Alrighty. I'm moving my pillow out of the way. I'm bringing my hands back up onto the thigh. Press to help lift myself up, getting out of that lunge. I'm leaning back a little bit so I can get the weight off that front foot so I can step it back. Just like this. Leaning over to the right side, hand on the floor, so I can step this left foot back, coming to hands and knees right here. It's just a nice way to realign the body. Let's take 3 breaths, cat and cow. Now I mentioned in a standing position, just kind of checking in with your posture, what feels tight, if anything, okay? Because that might be a reflection of what's going on in your hip flexors and hamstrings. You can also do it lying down, which we're going to do next. Alrighty, I'm going to crawl off the blanket here. Let's set the blanket to the side. Get that out of the way. We are going to be doing a back bend in a moment, so have your blocks or books nearby. Let's go ahead and take a seat. So I'm sitting back into hero, then off to the side. Swing legs around to the front. Make sure you're sitting in the center of your mat. Go ahead and start to roll down onto your back. You can certainly draw your knees into chest. This actually can be a test. As you hug the knees in, do a check-in. How does this feel? Okay, do you feel any tightness in your hamstrings? Okay, in your belly, in your thighs, the front portions of the legs? It's very likely that you don't, or not too much at least, because of this forward fold kind of position. And it's certainly a posture that we're familiar with and do a lot of, like sitting, for example. Okay? Now, and also another test here is, does your low back touch the ground? In my case, it does. Alrighty? Now here's the second test. Just set the feet onto the floor. With feet on the floor, we can still check in. How does it feel in your thighs? Maybe around the waistline. Does your low back still touch the floor? Or is there a slight lift of the low back where you could maybe tuck some fingers underneath? It's okay if there's a little gap there. In my case, my back pretty much touches the floor. How do your glutes feel and hamstrings? All right, if this feels okay, then probably no issues. Here's the true test. Extend the legs out front and even have your arms next to you like you're doing Shavasana. Now, if this feels uncomfortable, especially after lying here for some time, if it feels tight in your low belly, for example, upper thighs, even your hamstrings or glutes, and if there's a significant lift of your low back away from the ground, so things are kind of pulling, things are tight. Okay, this is that same, well, kind of similar to that standing position, okay? But here you can probably sense it a little bit more if things are tight. All right, let's move into our bridge pose. So this is a little bit of a test to figure out, why do I have tightness? It could be, tight hip flexors, maybe tight hamstrings. All right, bend your knees again, plant your feet into the floor, grab your blocks. Breathing in, fill up your lungs. Exhale to empty. Then lift hips into the air. Slide your books or blocks underneath you, and then just sit. Now, we're doing a supported version of bridge while sitting on the props. If we were doing a more full version, without the blocks and just holding ourselves up, it can be both an engaging position for our glutes and hamstrings and a lengthening process in the hip flexors. But we're trying to relax most of those regions of the body. But there can be this gentle opening. Even if you lifted your hips up a tiny bit higher and putting another object underneath. Here's something you could do. We've done this before. Instead of keeping the knees bent with feet flat on the ground, you can extend your legs. So it creates this another version of back bend, lengthening through the thighs, low belly, psoas or low abs. Take some breaths. You don't have to hold this too long. Again, another lengthening process here. These are all poses we've done before. We're just taking particular awareness and notice of how it affects our hip flexors. Okay, go ahead and bend your knees, plant the feet. We'll lift the hips into the air so you can remove the blocks. Come down gently to the ground. Hold in stillness here. You're going to come to seated. Now you can certainly draw your knees into chest, rock yourself up to a seated position, or roll to your side. That's what I'm doing, just rolling to my side, using hands to help lift right here. Sitting up and then extending the legs. Here's where we're going to use the strap. Let's get into our hamstrings now. Plenty of work for the fronts of the legs. Let's do a few things for our hamstrings. Now I like to sit on something soft. I'm going to bring in my blanket, not very thick, and I don't want it doesn't need to be too thick, but I like to sit somewhat on the edge of the blanket here. Just that slight lift helps me to hinge or propel myself forward because we are doing a forward fold. Use your strap, wrap it around the feet if you'd like, holding on to the ends of the strap, bending the elbows, kind of natural and loose here by the sides of your body. We'll inhale a little tug of the strap to help you sit up nice and tall. And exhale to draw belly in, a little tug of the strap to actually hinge forward. Again, just a tiny bit. You can always reposition your hands on the strap. And again, you don't have to go very far. In my case, my legs are pretty straight here. You can certainly bend the knees. Bend them a lot if you want to. Even take a rolled up towel or a cushion and place them underneath the knees if you'd like. Folding. You can even round out your back. I'm doing that right now. And just taking some deep breaths. I'm even resting my arms on my thighs, still holding onto the strap so I can kind of hold myself in place. Again, I can really feel this in my hamstrings, but I don't feel like I'm forcing the position. I can even lighten it up a little bit. So I could hold it, yes, for a significant amount of time. This feels good, just like this. My back feels relaxed. I'm folding forward. I got that natural propelling forward sensation because I'm sitting on the edge of my blanket. So just kind of find that place where there's certainly work happening. In this case, hamstrings, getting a nice lengthening sensation. Deep breathing. Even imagine you're sending breath to the areas of the body that are being worked. So imagine maybe you're sending breath. Okay, so good oxygen and blood flow to your hamstrings. Let's take 3 more breaths. All right, we're just going to rise back up until we're nice and tall once again. There we are. All right, let's release the strap. Set it to the side. Let's get that stretch out of the hamstrings. Let's just return briefly to cobbler's pose or bound angle. Okay, so we're just bending the knees. Bring the soles of the feet together, holding onto the shins or ankles, and just sit up tall for a moment. A couple breaths. Now we're going to go through a flow again because we're going to do another standing posture that will get into our hamstrings. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and return to our hands and knees. If you were sitting on something, let's move that to the side. Go ahead and set yourself up for downward facing dog. Step the hands forward, you know the drill. Strong arms, tuck toes. You can do your cat-cow if you like here again. After cat, lift the knees, send your hips into the air. Straighten the spine, down dog. Inhale, extend your right leg up into the air. Same transition, but if you're able, stepping foot closer to the hand. Now my foot didn't make it all the way, so I'm just going to kind of wiggle it. I'm just kind of scooting my foot a little bit farther forward. You can do the same thing. Pivot left heel to the floor, plant it, shift the weight back, rise to fingertips, extend through spine. Inhale, hinge from hips. Here we go. Rising up, reach into the air. You might even feel that left hip flexor do its work again. Exhale, opening, warrior 2. I'm just going to reposition my legs a little bit. Now my feet, they're not too far apart, but I'm going to bring them in a little closer, just a little closer, because we're going to straighten this front leg. We're going to triangle pose. So it's going to actually lengthen the right hamstring, okay? But you can have less distance between the feet. So your arms are here. We're going to reach out over the right leg, another angled upper body, then rotate the arms. And just resting this right hand somewhere on the thigh or knee, just depending on how low you get. You want to have a feeling here. Actually, let's try this. Lift your toes in front, just your toes, and just push the heel and the balls of the foot into the ground, which will kind of stabilize the pelvis and activate the leg. You want to feel like your left hip is actually moving, okay, in this direction, wherever it's pointing. It's like energy is traveling from the heel of the foot up through this front leg, but passes through the body, passes through the left hip, continuing that line. So a nice lengthening through the hamstring and the front leg. Let's bend the right knee significantly here, creating leverage so we can come back up to a warrior 2. Hold there for a moment. And then we're going to windmill. This left arm comes up and around, facing forward. Fold and bend. Bring the hands to the ground. Rise up onto tiptoes behind you. There's our runner's lunge. We're sliding the right foot back. There's plank pose. Hold. Bend your knees a little. Send your hips into the air. If need be, tiptoe forward a little bit. There's our downward facing dog. Get a good extension through the spine. Hands root firmly into the floor. Inhale, extend left leg into the air. We'll exhale, bending the left knee, shifting forward, and as best as you can, stepping left foot closer to the hand. I'm going to wiggle the toes forward. There we are. Pivot right heel to the ground behind you. Put some weight back there. Rise up to fingertips. Lengthen through the torso. Inhale, hinge. Rise up, facing forward, reaching into the sky. And there's our exhale opening to Warrior Two. Making some adjustments with the feet. Okay, we're getting set up for triangle. Feel free to bring the feet a little closer together, which I'm doing, and then straighten the left leg. You want to feel the legs are straight. You feel tall in the torso. Here's our setup, arms parallel to the floor. Reach out over the left thigh. Now as you reach forward, your right hip is starting to tip or send it back to the back end of your mat. Then rotate the arms. Here we are. That same line of energy. Let's fire up this front leg. Just lift your toes. Drive the heel and the balls of your foot into the ground. It should fire up the leg. Stabilizes the pelvis so you can hold the position. Breathing deeply. Feel that line of energy shooting up through the heel of the left foot, right up the leg, and right through the body, through the right hip at an angle, following that line of energy. Deep breaths here. Notice what is happening in the hamstring. Okay, feels a little bit different since the whole body is activated in the standing posture. Not as relaxed perhaps as sitting and doing a forward fold, which we're going to do again. All right, let's bend the left knee. Nice leverage so we can come back up to a Warrior Two. Hold for a moment. Here's our windmill, right hand up and over. We fold, hands down to the ground, up onto tiptoes behind you, nice alignment in our runner's lunge. Hands press firmly into the floor, slide the left foot back to meet the other. There's our plank pose. Feel straight and strong. Hold. Let's go ahead and bring the knees to the floor again, right here. Sit back briefly in hero. Get off the hands. You're taking another seat. Sit off to the side, swing the legs around to the front. Sitting in the center. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to do that same forward fold. Again, I'm going to bring in that blanket. I just like having that little extra support and then also something soft to sit on. But I am sitting on the edge because it just naturally just kind of tips me forward. I'm going to use the strap again. So we did this as a relaxed posture, and then we stood up for a more activated hamstring stretch, and now just returning to this relaxed version here. Let's sit up nice and tall. Inhale. Exhale, a little tug of the strap to hinge forward. Adjusting hands on the strap. As before, I'm just going to relax the arms a little bit, let the back round, and just kind of feel yourself just settle into the pose. Breathing deeply. Sending that breath right into the hamstrings, perhaps. This could be a nice moment of meditation, concentration, a moment to release, maybe relax a little bit, even as the body is working. Nicely done. We are going to do another hamstring stretch, but just from a different position, using the strap. Let's take 5 more breaths in this position. Taking your time. Notice if there's some release occurring in the legs. Your body appropriately responding in a gentle way to this pose. Okay, let's go ahead and start to roll our way back up until we're nice and tall, just like this. And then relax. Okay, keep the strap nearby, just taking it out from the soles of the feet. I'm going to scoot off my blanket and set it to the side. Now we are going to roll down onto the back again. Make sure you can grab your strap. We're going to do a leg extension with the leg in the air. Okay, so go ahead and roll down onto your back. Go ahead and bring the knees, both knees into chest. Again, it might be a very nice neutral position after all the work we're doing for our hamstrings and hip flexors. All right, now go ahead and set the left foot on the floor, knees bent, but left foot on the floor. Can you grab your strap? Is it nearby? Because we're going to wrap the strap around the bottom of the right foot and extend that right leg into the air for another hamstring stretch. Now, This doesn't have to, the knee doesn't have to be straight. It can have a bend in the knee. What you may do here as you're lying flat is just gently drawing the leg, using the strap perhaps, as if you're sending the leg over your head until, there it is, I can feel that natural hamstring stretch. Option with the left leg. I've got that left knee bent, foot on the floor. You can certainly do that. Or even extend the leg, okay? Because even this position, so I can actually feel this. I put a little bit more stretch in the hamstring, but this is doing that natural lengthening through the hip flexor as well. You choose. If this feels like it's a little bit too much for the body at the moment, you can also keep that left knee bent and just concentrate on the right leg you're working with. I'm going to soften this up just a little bit. I feel like I was tugging just a little too hard there. Plus, it's a different sensation because the leg is up in the air, so the circulation feels a little different, and we're certainly not going to hold this too long. 2 more breaths. When you're ready, we can bend the knee so we can release the strap. Bring the foot to the floor. Even just rest here for a moment. Take some deep breaths. Everything just settles into the ground in this nice neutral position, both for the hamstrings and hip flexors. When you're ready, the right foot can just stay as it is with the knee bent if you'd like. Let's draw the left knee in, wrap the strap around the foot, and we'll extend the leg into the air. And again, it doesn't have to be an absolutely straight leg. Keep a bend in the knee. A little tug of the strap as if you're sending your toes over your head, but just enough where you just start to feel some lengthening in the hamstring. You don't want to feel like you're pulling too hard for sure. Same thing with the right leg. You can keep that knee bent or extend the leg. Notice the change in the body that happens when you extend the leg. I feel a bit more of a stretch quality in the left hamstring, while the right hip flexor is also getting some lengthening. So you might do this maybe just for a breath or two if you want, and then return to the bent knee and hold. Even put more bend in the left leg if you need to, just in case it feels like it's straining a little bit as you're basically in an inverted pose. You're practically upside down here. 3 more breaths. We'll bend the knee a little bit more. Release the strap. We're finished with the strap, so you can set it to the side. Hold here. Nice softening of the body. Bring the legs together so they might touch with the knees bent. Gently let the knees fall out to either side of the room. Soles of the feet will touch. So it's just another recline or another cobbler's pose or bound angle. We're just doing the reclining version. Now there's a heaviness here, at least that I'm sensing, because gravity is pulling those legs open, so I can feel a significant stretch in the inner legs. If that feels like it's happening to you and it's not comfortable, that's when you want to use your books or blocks again. Tuck them underneath the knees. Okay, so it doesn't feel like they're being pulled too harshly. This feels very comfortable like this, actually. Excellent. 3 more breaths. And we'll bring the knees together once again. Hug the knees in towards your body. Let's take a twist. Let's start by sending the knees over to the left side. I still have my block over there, which is nice, because as my knees go to the left, my legs can actually rest on that leg. I'm even going to place a block between the knees here, just so that there isn't too much of a rotation in the spine. You don't want to strain the low back. So just placing a pillow, cushion, blocks between the knees like this, or underneath the left leg in this case, can help modify the pose. I've got my right arm extending out to the right side. comfortably in a twist, breathing deeply. I really feel I can just really relax here. A lot of the poses that we did, and I think we were able to find both that balance of relaxation and engagement. 3 more breaths. And we can return to center. You might even give yourself another hug. As you do so, if you're using those props, I'm just going to send them over to the other side. And then send the knees over to the right side. I am using the block underneath the right leg and placing a block between the knees just to kind of soften the rotation. Left arm can extend out to the left side. Feeling the body relax. Being able to breathe deeply here. And let's take 3 more breaths. And when you feel complete, we can return to center. Feel free to give yourself another hug. And prepare for our relaxation pose. Give you some options. Now you can certainly just extend the legs out in front, arms down by your side for Shavasana. But remember, sometimes I often say, sometimes it's not comfortable to lie flat on your back, and that might be because it feels tight or bound up in certain parts of your body, like your hips, your hip flexors, or even your low back. So feel free to bend the knees here and rest here, or just use props to help support the body, maybe elevate the legs, or some softness underneath the body, underneath your head, for example. So I'm going to take my Shavasana with knees bent, just like this, feet on the floor. Close your eyes if you like, to take your journey inward, or keeping eyes opened, gazing past the ceiling, finding a nice stillness and silence within. Feel free to stay here as long as you'd like. Even as I end the practice, feel free to take a few more moments in your relaxing pose before you decide to finish your moving practice today. When it is time to move, you might start with 5 slow, deep breaths. And as you're taking these deep breaths, starting to feel movement return to your body. Nothing too major. Keep it subtle, slow, and soft. And as movement returns, you might carefully roll onto either side of your body into a nurturing position. And then rise up to seated. Bring in something soft to sit on if you'd like. Sitting up nice and tall. Nice extension of the spine, relax shoulders and arms, hands resting in your lap for a moment. You can even bring hands to heart center if you'd like. Take one more deep breath. And as we come to the close of our practice together, we bow saying, Namaste.